You know how your grandparents always swore that planting certain veggies next to each other made them grow twice as big? Or that some plants just magically kept the bugs away? It sounds like old garden folklore, right? Well, modern agricultural science has stepped in, and it turns out Grandma was absolutely right. Today, in this explainer, we are looking at how plants use incredible natural synergy to completely maximize home garden yields. So, you might be wondering, is it just a happy coincidence? Are the plants just, getting lucky? Not at all. This isn't magic, and it definitely isn't guesswork. Okay, let's dive into this. It's actually a completely nature-driven scientific process that we can replicate right in our own backyards. We're talking about a concept known as companion planting. Basically, it's a nature-driven, eco-friendly method of pairing specific plants together to build a super healthy, high-yielding garden. It's all about relying on pure, scientifically backed botanical friendships. So instead of using harsh synthetic chemicals to force your plants to grow or to kill off pests, you thoughtfully pair plants together so they can actually do the heavy lifting for each other. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. The science of plant partnerships. 2. Natural pest control. 3. Attracting helpful pollinators. 4. Smart space management. 5. Underground nutrient sharing. And 6. Building a diverse ecosystem. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the science of plant partnerships, from folklore to fact. The big idea here is that plants really aren't meant to grow in these isolated, identical rows. They actually form powerful, synergistic partnerships to maximize their growth and honestly dramatically reduce your workload as a gardener. Modern science completely validates this centuries-old practice. Companion planting lets you replace harsh chemical pesticides, build remarkably healthy, high-yielding ecosystems, and operate purely on nature-driven science. It is literally the smartest, most eco-friendly way to work hand-in-hand with Mother Nature. Moving right along, let's look at Section 2, Natural Pest Control, the bodyguards. These plants are literally pulling security detail for your garden. Now, what's really interesting here is the mechanism at play. Instead of spraying toxic chemicals to kill bugs, these bodyguard plants use strong natural scents and aromatic oils. This intense scent essentially confuses or drives away harmful insects before they can even land. It's like creating this invisible, aromatic shield around your most vulnerable crops. Let's look at a classic combo: tomatoes and basil. Tomatoes are notoriously vulnerable to devastating attacks by destructive bugs like hornworms and thrips. But when you plant basil right next to them, the basil produces those strong aromatic oils that effectively repel those exact pests. It's a natural living shield. And here's a super surprising bonus fact. Experienced gardeners find that growing basil right next to tomatoes actually makes the tomato fruit taste significantly better. I mean, talk about a win-win. Now, let's turn to the flying visitors we actually want to invite in. Section 3, Attracting Helpful Pollinators, or the Welcome Committee. If you want a massive harvest of vegetables like squash, cucumbers, or beans, you absolutely must have a welcoming environment for pollinators like bees and butterflies. The mechanism here is brilliant. Certain plants act as a dual-purpose magnet. By planting bright, nectar-rich flowers right next to your vegetables, you draw in essential flying pollinators from the sky, while simultaneously, and this is wild, repelling microscopic threats deep down in the soil. The absolute perfect illustration of this is pairing beans and marigolds. Beans are kind of needy, you know? They require active pollination to produce a crop, and their roots are highly vulnerable to pests. Enter the marigold. Those incredibly bright yellow and orange petals are basically neon landing lights for bees, calling them down to pollinate the bean blossoms. But marigolds offer this spectacular double benefit. Down under the dirt, their roots secrete a natural substance that repels harmful microscopic worms called nematodes. So the marigold serves as both a brilliant pollinator beacon in the air and a fierce subterranean bodyguard in the dirt. Let's move on and see how this builds into Section 4, Smart Space Management, the living mulch. We've covered defending against bugs and attracting bees, but what about the physical, structural space in your garden bed? The mechanism here relies entirely on botanical shapes and sizes. By pairing tall, sun-loving plants with short, shade-loving ones, you maximize every single square inch of your growing space. Plus, the taller plant protects the soil underneath it like a natural umbrella. We call this a living mulch. The physical presence of one plant completely shelters the living environment of another.
Think about the spatial harmony between tall crops and ground cover. On one hand, we've got tall crops like corn or pole beans. They have this sturdy, towering structure that actively wants to absorb that harsh, hot afternoon sun. On the other hand, we have lettuce. Lettuce is shallow-rooted and absolutely loves cool, damp soil. If you plant lettuce all by itself in the blazing July sun, it dries out, wilts, and just turns bitter. But plant it under the shadow of the tall corn, and those large leaves block the intense rays. They keep the soil cool and conserve essential moisture so the lettuce can thrive. It is spatial harmony at its absolute finest.
This brings us to a fascinating process that happens entirely out of sight. Section 5, Underground Nutrient Sharing. Soil enrichment.
We just saw how plants share physical space above ground, but they are incredibly adept at sharing space below ground, too. The mechanism here is just brilliant. Deep-rooted vegetables literally drill down and open up heavy earth, while other plants pull vital elements from the air to feed the ground. They share the soil in perfect harmony. So, the crucial point is that different plants are seeking different nutrients at entirely different depths. Because they're eating from different zones, they never compete, they cooperate.
Let me tell you the mini story of carrots and leeks to show you how this underground teamwork happens. Carrots, as we know, grow straight and deep down into the earth. As they push downward, they act like little plows, actively breaking up heavy, compacted soil. Now consider the leek. Leeks don't have those deep driving roots. Instead, they easily expand their shallower roots laterally right into that freshly broken soil provided by the carrot. Because the carrot is basically eating from the deep fridge and the leek is eating from the top shelf, they never fight over food or space. They exist together flawlessly. Finally, let's bring all 4 of these scientific mechanisms together. Section 6, Building a Diverse Ecosystem. Trusting Nature's Design. And this brilliantly illustrates the full interconnected picture of companion planting. Look at what we've covered. We have tomatoes and basil acting as our bodyguards, using scent to repel pests. We have beans and marigolds acting as our welcoming pollinators, attracting bees while stopping root threads. We have tall corn and lettuce acting as a living mulch, providing crucial cool shade. And we've got carrots and leeks as nutrient sharers, breaking heavy soil without competing for food. When you apply all of these strategies together, you aren't just planting vegetables, you are engineering a completely self-sustaining ecosystem. Which brings us to this beautifully simple yet profound quote from our source material. A successful garden is a diverse ecosystem. This is absolutely the core thesis to take away from this explainer. By trusting nature's design and purposefully making smart plant pairings, you fundamentally reduce your physical workload. You completely eliminate the need for dangerous synthetic chemicals. And it truly doesn't matter if you manage a tiny raised backyard bed or a massive, sprawling greenhouse. These botanical friendships are the guaranteed blueprint for success. So I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to ponder. How will you design your next garden? Armed with the real science of companion planting, understanding the bodyguards, the pollinators, the live-in mulch, and the nutrient sharers, you have the power to create a thriving, vibrant space right in your own backyard. Get out there, experiment with these natural partnerships, and let Mother Nature do what she does best. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy planting.